The following program is a production of Pioneer Public Television. Major funding for your legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a diverse coalition dedicated to erasing Minnesota's transportation deficit and creating new funding that will enable the state to properly maintain and improve transportation assets and expand access opportunity for all. More information on the web at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota clean waters, safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans. Live from St. Paul, Minnesota, we welcome you to the 35th session of Your Legislators, a roundtable discussion featuring state lawmakers who are prepared to answer your questions and discuss important issues affecting the citizens of Minnesota. Now, here is your moderator for tonight's program, Barry Anderson.
Good evening and welcome to this week's version of Your Legislators. We're delighted that you have joined us, and we have with us, as we do each week during the period of time that the legislature is in session, a panel of distinguished guests from up the hill here who will help us unravel the mysteries of St. Paul. My name is Barry Anderson. I'll be your moderator and host this week and all the subsequent weeks from now until the legislature goes home. When that might be, maybe is something we'll talk a little bit about tonight as well. I want to begin this evening, as we do each week, by inviting you, the viewer, to call in with your questions or to send them in via our fancy electronic methods here, email, Twitter, smoke signals, whatever works. We'll see that the questions get to the panel, and we'll give them an opportunity to be your legislators and to answer your questions. So we begin this evening, as we do each week, by introducing that distinguished panel, and we begin to my immediate left, from Northfield, District 20B, Representative David Bly. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, Representative Bly.
Well, I was a public school teacher for 30 years. I worked in an alternative school for 20-some of those years. I began my teaching career out in Milan, Minnesota. And that's where I first became aware of Pioneer Public Television. I ran for the legislature and was elected in 2006. I lost in 2010, but returned in 2012.
And we're delighted that you're with us. Just down the road from me, actually, from Apple Valley.
Yes,
so,
right.
Also joining us from Eagan, Senator Jim Carlson. Senator Carlson, delighted you could be with us. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much. Well, my name is Jim Carlson. I'm from District 51, which includes most of Eagan and about a third of Burnsville. And I grew up right near where I live today on a farm, which there are no more farms in Eagan, but when I grew up, that was very much a country area. I am a mechanical engineer. I worked for, right over here, Economics Laboratory, which is now Ecolab, and then for 3M, and I retired from 3M and decided to get involved in politics. And so I got elected in 2006 to the Minnesota Senate. I was, like David, beaten in 2010, and then came back in 2012.
When you talk about Eagan, growing up on a farm in Eagan, which many of our viewers are, I'm sure they're just puzzled by that, I'm reminded of our mutual friend, Paul Anderson. We made a visit to Eden Prairie High School, and he was telling the students there about being a graduate of Eden Prairie High School. His high school class was, I think, 30 students or thereabouts. There are a few more people that live in Eden Prairie this day as opposed to then. Joining us from District 13, Paynesville, Senator Michelle Fischbach. Senator Fischbach, good to see you again. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
I've been in the legislature since 1996, and currently I serve Senate District 13, which covers, it's part of rural Stearns County. Paynesville is in it. It goes all the way over to Sauk Rapids and Sartell, St. Stephen. Few small towns in there in between. And right now I've come back to the Health and Human Services Finance Committee. I was off for a few years, but most of my career I've been on that committee. I serve as the lead Republican minority on the Finance Committee, on the Full Finance, and Senator Cohen's committee. And brand new to me this year is the Commerce Committee, but we haven't actually had a meeting yet. So on paper, I'm on that committee, but I haven't been in the chair yet. So.
Senator Fischbach, I would say that with almost 20 years' experience in the legislature, you've got to be among the more veteran members of the Senate. Am I right about that? Or I suppose there are a few with a few more seniority, but that's almost 20 years.
Yes, and I appreciate that you said veteran as opposed to senior. But I believe I am 7th in seniority right now in the Senate. I know that Senator Cohen, there's Senator Pappas has been there. I'm trying to remember who, and then in our caucus, I'm 2nd in seniority as Senator Limmer is just about a year ahead of me.
All right, well, very good. Well, we'll draw on that veteran experience before we're done this evening. And finally, joining us from District 22A, Laverne, Representative Joe Schumacher. Did you pronounce that right?
That is absolutely right, yes.
Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
I'm in my 3rd term in the Minnesota House. I come from Laverne, Minnesota, which is about 8 miles from the South Dakota and Iowa borders. I always joke that we're actually closer to the city of Omaha than we are to the Twin Cities there. So just to give a little geographic perspective on some of that. I run a cleaning business with my family there, so we do the carpet cleaning, duct cleaning, and janitorial services throughout the southwest Minnesota area. And so a few years ago, the people of southwest Minnesota decided that they wanted to send me to St. Paul, and now I'm in my 5th year here. I serve on the Health and Human Service Finance and Policy Committees, as well as the Ag Policy Committee, and this year I have the wonderful opportunity to chair the Aging Services Committee. And it's kind of interesting that someone my age would be chairing a committee on aging and long-term care, especially since I was in 4th grade when our senator got elected for the first time.
Okay, I'm going to call it time. And he's only a couple of years older than my son, so
there you go.
I do have.
But we have a state that has a growing problem with the aging and having no plan for what we do with that. And so we're going to spend the next 10 or 15 weeks discussing some of those issues. We just had the state demographer in earlier, just yesterday, to talk about some of the trends and if people are saving, if they're going to be healthy in their later years, what their plans are for their later years. And so we're going to try and address some of those things and make it easier for not only the generation that's going to be needing senior care next, but those who are going to be paying for the next generation that needs senior care and those who are going to be caring for those people. And so we're going to put a lot of focus on that this year. I'm really excited to be able to do something for the state like that, and that's going to be my focus this year, and hopefully we're able to do something good.
So we're going to go to our questions from our viewers, but Representative Schumacher, I'm going to pick on you to start with, and I'm going to put you right on the spot because last week we had a question that our leadership panel was not able to handle, and they didn't know all the details, and so we were looking for somebody from southwestern Minnesota, and we have found him. So we had a question from a viewer who wanted to know what the status of the Lewis and Clark Trail was, and if was there any discussion about that in the legislature, and we had another question about the water situation in southwestern Minnesota and the bringing of water to that part of the state. So if you could give us an update on those two questions, that would be a great way to start.
Certainly. Well, I'm not aware of the Lewis and Clark Trail. I'm not sure if there's something of a different name or if the person was mistaken, but the Lewis and Clark Water Project has been...
And that may be what the question was about. Yeah. They said trail, but that may be what they were talking about.
I'm sorry, I missed last week. I would have been watching. But...
Well, there'll be a test later. But anyway, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about the Lewis and Clark Water Project, which I think is what they were talking about.
Yeah, so in southwest Minnesota, we grow rock instead of water, unlike the rest of the state. So we have a little bit of a different issue down there in just getting a good supply of quality water and having a stable supply of quality water throughout the region. And so we've been trying for about the last 20 years to get a pipeline that comes and brings water from the Missouri River near Vermillion, South Dakota, and pipes it to the region and different connections that way. Originally, there was the agreement was that the local governments would put in a third of the money, the states would put in a third, and the federal government would put in the last third once the other two were met. Unfortunately, the federal government hasn't been good on their end of the deal, and so the development got to the Minnesota-South Dakota line and then stopped due to lack of funding from the federal government. And so last year, the people of Minnesota were very good to us, especially the legislators, in helping us get more funds so that we could continue that process. Later last year, some of the bids came in from the ability to have that money in so they could start making those plans for the next round of water, and those bids actually came in a little bit under budget, which is good because the federal government still isn't providing their share of the money in that, and so we're able to continue the project. We'll have a little bit more money. We're taking some of the funds that the state was generous in giving us and doing the development for the rest of the state for the plan, which just means getting it to Worthington. So we'll hopefully this next year be able to have that whole portion taken care of for the planning purpose. So when the state, which we will be coming back to the state to ask for more funds, unfortunately with this, because that's the situation we're in, we'll have the plan and things will be shovel ready for us for that. So plans are underway to get it to Laverne right now as it is, and then we'll have the blueprints ready to go, so we'll be shovel ready when we're able to secure some more funding.
And that would be next year on the bond, during the bonding year, more than likely, right? Is that that would be the plan, I assume?
Wasn't there an issue with bonding?
Yes.
In the sense that because it was a bi-state or dual state project, we couldn't really use the bonding, so we did take some general fund money and do it that way.
Yeah, we ended up last year, in the last 2 days of session, we realized
that's right.
that we couldn't use the bonding money because South Dakota and Iowa were also involved with that, and so we did have to use the cash portion for that, and likely if we come back for more, we're going to have to take that same approach.
All right. Well, we'll have more questions about that, I'm sure, as the weeks unfold, and we'll designate you the official Your Legislators expert on the topic. So I'm calling you to.
So far.
So far.
There might be something else that comes up.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's talk about college tuition, education, et cetera. We have a call from that famous Minnesota town, unidentified city, and this.
I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's. I think they're all Danish there. But anyway, this viewer wants to know. Viewer's concern is about the governor's free college. I should say. I guess it's the Senate's plan. Free college tuition. This person wants to know whether or not it should be restricted to students with a higher grade point or those working full-time. Since I think it's a Senate DFL proposal, maybe we start with you, Senator Carlson, and we'll go around the table here and see what people think about it.
It's for 2-year colleges, right?
Yes, it's for 2-year colleges, and it's intended to be for technical careers. So it's kind of like what we used to have as technical trade schools. And it's to give all students the benefit of having that 2-year post-secondary education. People that go to 4-year colleges, they generally will have different funding mechanisms that they can use, and plus what we want to do really is to give access to the classically underserved population. So you could probably compare it best to the old technical school model that we had in Minnesota probably 20, 30 years ago or something.
Actually, I think it's longer ago than that, because I think you could attend for free, as I recall.
That's
but
right.
That was when I was a student in high school, and that's like 40 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we had just a huge number of technical schools at that time that people could go to and get technical, like tool and die, machinist, welder, all of those kinds of skills. And then those are really in demand now. And this is a way that we can try to fill that demand.
But correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding of the proposal is it's not just focused on technical trades, it's anything at the 2-year schools, so that they could get their AA degree and spend 2 years and then go on and get a BA, but 2 years free.
Original intent was technical careers, not the artistic careers, not the cosmetology, things like that. It was supposed to be to fill that demand for technical people.
Okay, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't read the bill yet, but I don't know. But But my understanding is for any two-year school, they can
Any
get any
two-year junior
degree.
college or
Yeah,
community
any
college,
degree
whatever
they
you
can
call it
get,
here
so
in
that it could be,
Minnesota.
State junior college,
your
yeah.
two-year, you could get your AA degree
So
and
it's the
whatever.
public schools, not the private schools.
Correct,
is that right?
yes.
Yeah, it's,
And there's another one that's called the Pipeline Project, and that has a little different definition to
well,
it.
that's kind of a
And that's
public-private partnership.
Public-private partnership, correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Senator Fischbach, your thoughts on that?
Well, I do have some concerns. I was chair of higher ed for several years and sat on the higher ed committee up until this year. I do have some concerns about what it does to the system overall, because we have a lot of four-year schools, private and public in this. U of M, President Kaler, has already expressed his concern about doing the 2 years free, because it really undermines, that four-year degree that people are looking for too. Not suited to everybody. Obviously, there's a lot for many people out there. They all have a little bit different things that they want out of school and out of life, but it really could do some damage, and to the system, in the sense that you would have all of the people with two-year degrees, and what would happen with the four-year colleges, because you can go and get the AA degree there. But also the cost. And I don't know about the estimates, but both the U of M and MnSCU both have a lot of needs right now, and they are looking for additional funds, and that would take a lot of money. I heard an estimate of $150 million, but my understanding is that was underestimated. So who knows how much it would be to provide all of that, because it would be anybody who would graduate from a high school in Minnesota would be qualified for that.
Representative Schumacher, your thoughts?
Well, I think this calls attention to the big issue here, and that's the workforce development. And the fact that we have about 50% underemployment in the state shows that we need to really be looking at ways to direct things in another direction. And I applaud the Senate for taking such a bold move. I think I found it interesting that President Obama made the very similar announcement just 2 days later, and so it's nice that he's taking the notes from Senator Bach and going from there. But it is worth looking at overall, and worth having a thorough debate on, because we do have such a workforce challenge in the state, and we have plenty of jobs out there for the right skill set, but we don't have the right skill set out there. And if this is one way to make that happen, then we should be looking at that. But I think there are going to be plenty of proposals out here during the session that we can really look at addressing the workforce issue as a whole, and trying to do things that make Minnesotans happy and working and paying taxes.
Mr. Black?
Well, I think it highlights some different problems that we have experienced, and Joe mentioned some of them, but our public school system in general, I think, moved away from technical and career kinds of education and more towards academic and aiming people at those four-year colleges. And we kind of neglected preparing people for the trades or the two-year. And I don't know if that's because of some of the futuristic thinking some years ago, where they thought we would have an economy that would be a service or information-based, as opposed to the trades and manufacturing. And I think we've learned that our economy really needs to have those kinds of jobs in it to be successful. And so I think there is a recognition that we need to do something different. Last year, or 2 years ago, the House had a World's Best Workforce bill, which I think aimed at lower grades and trying to reinstate some of that thinking about career and technology and getting ready for students for those kinds of jobs and that kind of workforce. So I think it's a response to that. The other thing it's responding to, I'm sure, as well, is what we've seen with the growth of student debt and how difficult it is to get a start in your career if you have so much student debt. And I applaud the Senate for taking that on. I think it's an important issue that we need to address. And we used to be more generous as a state in helping students, not only at two-year, but at four-year colleges. And we should maybe rethink that. It's a real investment in our workforce and in our population to say we need these kinds of workers, we need these kinds of jobs, and we should help folks get that.
Right, and I think that approach will be successful for us as long as we're engaging the current job creators in the state, so that we are actually responding to what they really want to, and the skills that they see that they need.
Yeah, that was one of the things about the World's Best Workforce I think that's really good, is it encourages school districts to really engage their communities in the kinds of jobs and careers that are out there for the students and get the students interested in those.
Yeah.
So some
And
good things are happening.
I think we're going to be moving a lot more to some of the debt forgiveness, too, the debt forgiveness and the,
Okay.
to get some of the greater Minnesota demand fulfilled, too, for physicians, medical workers, hospital nursing homes. There's a lot of pressure for that, too.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of those jobs don't pay enough to be able to retire a big debt. And we had that problem many years ago with teachers. So we brought in a forgiveness program.
I think we still have an issue with teachers, especially in those trade areas. I was listening to in our ag committee some concerns about the lack of ag teachers, and that we need to train those teachers and get them out there so we can educate folks to go into farming.
Senator Fischbach, any other things any other thoughts on the higher ed?
Well, I guess just in general, there's a lot of talk about the trades and things like that. If the proposal actually gets at that, it would really fit in better. But I think that the public-private partnership they're talking about, and I can't remember the
Pipeline.
nickname, the pipeline that they gave it, there's value in that. That provides money for a school to partner with the private industry to do a training program. But as for just the 2 years of free college, I don't know if that gets at what we're talking about, really getting those folks trained in the right areas that we're looking for. There were some, there's issues with large equipment that they're trying to be trained on. When we were looking at, we did the public-private partnership fund that we did so that the schools could partner with one of the industries to get the large pieces of equipment that they may need, specialized equipment. Those kinds of things, I think, would make a lot more sense than just, doing a free 2 years free tuition, but really getting the industries involved and helping focus on what we really need, and the kids being trained, or the students being trained. See, I shouldn't call them kids, should I? But the students being really trained on what industry is looking for, and some of those things that we could really do if there's needs in those areas. But I don't know. Not to disagree with the entire panel, but I don't know if 2 years free is exactly the answer that we would need to focus in on some of those school needs.
I think you make a very good point, too, that there needs to be some skin in the game from the student also. But I need to go back to my own experience. I graduated from high school years ago and took a test, and I went to Dunwoody. I went to Dunwoody free, because an employer paid my tuition, and I went to work for that employer for I went to school for 6 months, then worked at the employer's place for 6 months. And I was offered that without any strings attached. And I think that, we need to be sure that the employers are stepping up, too. They have to have some skin in the game. The student has to have some skin in the game.
And I think that some of that pipeline, as I recall, just reading the proposal, there's that the pipeline is closer to that than the other is. And some of those partnership programs we can do, and getting both the student and industry and everyone involved, and not trying to force people into certain areas, but really making things available to what students want to do and what industry needs.
Senator Fischbach, we're going to stay with you. We've got a question from Stearns County. How will the state compensate livestock owners for depredation by timber wolves? And another question from a viewer from Leonard, Minnesota. What's the state legislature going to do about the expanding range and related problems of the wolf population? And of course, this has been in the news recently because of some federal court action, but I'm sure, Senator Fischbach, you get some questions about this.
Yeah,
so.
and I guess I'm not quite that far north yet, but I think I'm the furthest north here, so I can. We haven't started looking exactly, because we had the hunting season, and now with the federal things that are going on, prior to the hunting season that it was available, there was compensation for farmers who were losing livestock to wolves. I am assuming that if it had been stopped during, it was handled by the DNR, and I'm not 100% sure, but if it was stopped when we opened the hunting season, we will have to renew that, because there is damage, and people are losing money on livestock. It's very expensive that wolves are killing and using for food. So we do need to address that, and I'm assuming that we would do something very similar to what we had prior to the hunting season for wolves.
Anybody else want to weigh in on the wolf question?
I understand that fund is depleted. Is that correct?
Well, see, I can't remember if we depleted it because of the hunting season, because it wasn't as necessary anymore, because prior to the hunting season, we were doing some reimbursements. Okay, maybe I'm mistaken.
I could be mistaken, but I thought we even did it after the hunting season.
Okay.
Because these were predatory animals that the farmers were killing because they were attacking their livestock. And then they would get that compensation. But from what I understand, the fund has been either zeroed out or it's just inadequate.
And that's why I say this session, we're going to have to address that again because it is becoming an issue again.
We have a viewer who wants to know about all-day kindergarten. Viewer's not in favor of this. I take that back. I want to be clear about what the viewer's does not believe the state should pay for it. And so the viewer wants to know, is the state going to pay for all-day kindergarten? So what's the status of this education issue? Let's start with our educator, our most recent educator on the panel, I guess.
Well, I think we do pay for all-day kindergarten now. So that was a bill that the governor felt very strongly about, and got it through the legislature and signed it. So we do pay for all-day kindergarten. I personally think we do need to make sure that students are ready to get started on first grade and the things that are important. And I think this is a way to do that, to make sure kids are getting the preparation they need. We'll also probably have some discussion about an early childhood proposal. We're hearing now that some would like to move forward on a universal four-year-old kind of preschool. I think that the biggest benefit of early childhood programming is for those students who come from difficult homes or where they are impoverished or whatever, and not necessarily early childhood for everyone. I think many parents who put their children in early childhood programs see the benefit for that, and their young children do get ahead. So there's evidence that shows that early childhood programs, as long as they also work with parents, not just the children, has tremendous benefit and saves money down the road.
So let's talk about early childhood. Senator Carlson, what's your view on that?
Just to run back a little bit, yes, we did pass all-day, everyday kindergarten last year. Today, and in fact it's one of the Senate proposals, is to provide a grade for four-year-olds. And so it's actually all-day preschool now. And it is by choice if the person doesn't want to bring their child into it, because we only mandate attendance at school from age 7 through age 17, which is, that most people don't think 7 is actually appropriate. And all the studies, except for I've heard of one that says that this gives a major return on investment. And like Representative Bly said, that there are some children that absolutely can take more advantage of an early childhood experience than people in other situations, people that have parents that maybe speak English and that are very involved in their children's education. But in some cases, we need to give that, if we're really serious about attacking this gap, we need to give those kids every possible alternative that we can afford.
Well, and I was under the impression that not every school district could do all-day K this year. I know that we provided the funding, but there was space issues and things like that, so it may not be available everywhere, and I think there was some option left for the school district too. I am concerned about with the four-year kindergarten, four-year preschool, I guess it was not kindergarten quite yet, but the four-year-olds, are we going to be able, are schools going to be able to accommodate it, size-wise, teacher-wise? If we provide the funding, it still doesn't necessarily mean that they have the space to do it, space available, and our parents going to want to do it. So, that might be something that we would leave to school districts to decide for their area if they're interested in doing it. They may have a very strong preschool, private preschool nearby, and maybe want to, and that's what people are utilizing, and people are happy with that. So maybe a school district doesn't necessarily want to go into a preschool program. So I think that we need to take a look at it. Right now, there are a lot of proposals to spend money, and so that I'm sure is going to be a discussion through most of session, is what money is going to be spent on.
Representative Schumacher?
Right. Well, I think that you're right that we did fund that this last year, the majority in the chamber supported funding that. I think it's worth evaluating to see where things are at with it, where it should go, just like any new program should be evaluated to see what kind of successes, where it might be faltering or what we might be doing in the future to make it successful, because we want to put the resources where they're going to be the most successful. But I think you're absolutely right that we should be making sure that whatever policies are coming forward do have the family in the focus, that the parents are just as engaged with those decisions, and it's not that things are being done just because the state says something. We have to have that local control, and we have to have those families involved with whatever decisions are being made, so that they are still raising their kids at the end of the day.
We have several questions from viewers on the subject of transportation. We have a viewer from Alexandria who wants to know, will the legislature make rural road improvements a priority? Another viewer who's concerned about gas tax increases wants to know whether gas taxes are going to go up. This viewer is indicating that the legislature should show restraint on gas tax increases because it increases costs. My guess is if we wait here long enough, we'll get some suggestion from folks that we should increase the gas tax. Obviously, there's some controversy about these topics. Representative Bly, let's start with transportation, gas taxes, rural roads. You've got Highway 3 that runs down to Northfield. Tell us a little bit about your view on these issues.
Yeah, well, it seems to me, from what I hear, is there are still tremendous needs for roads and bridges to be repaired in the rural areas. So yes, we need to take care of them. They need to be high on our agenda. When I visited with my MnDOT representative from Region 6, which is the region that my district is in, he said, well, we'd like to do this and we'd like to do that, but we just don't have the funds. We can't make it work. So projects get put off year after year, and the cost of doing these projects also goes up. So I haven't seen another proposal that would raise the kind of revenue that's necessary over the coming years that would take care of the repair. So the gas tax is one of the things we look at because it is a designated tax. It goes to roads and bridges, nothing else. So that's something we consider, certainly. I understand the concern about adding to the cost, and certainly the lowering of the gas price makes people feel like they can stretch their dollars a little bit farther, and they like that, and that's good. But I think it also is a time when we think, well, perhaps we can raise that gas tax just a little bit. If I knew of another place to get funds to do the work that needs to be done, that we really can't put off, I think about after the bridge fell on 35, I got a call. Actually, it was the day before it fell. I got a call from one of my township supervisors saying, there's a bridge out on Highway 1 that's really in bad repair, and my neighbors drive across that every day. I worry about them. Can you tell me, is the county going to repair that bridge? And so I called the county transportation person. He said, I'm sorry, but we know it's in bad shape, but we just don't have the funds to do it. And my county did raise some funds, raise some taxes, wheelage tax and things like that provides some, but my county board members tell me that's not enough. So I don't know how we take care of those roads and bridges if we don't do something like raise the gas tax.
Senator Carlson?
And I have the answer. The Senate has, and I'm on the Transportation Committee, the Senate has put forth a bill that is intended to raise a lot of money. And that's because we've been asked by the business community in the Itasca project. They say they need more funding. Our counties are all saying we have 82 of 87 counties that have signed on to a group called the Transportation Alliance, which is asking for increased funding. And again, my Dakota County has said their top 3 priorities are transportation, transportation, transportation. And it always boils down to money. We have, and I wish I could quote all the numbers. I have some of them in my my notes here, but we have roughly about a $20 billion unmet need, and we have to do something. We're recognizing that it's a big shortfall, and we have to do something. We cannot continue to so-called kick the can down the road. In 2008, we had a large transportation bill. There was a sales tax that was cut out of it, which was supposed to go to roads and to more of it to Greater Minnesota. But in this new bill, we have replaced that. What we're looking at now, and because fuel is really, in my view, the purest form of user fee, and it's also dedicated, so nobody can mess with it. You can't collect it and then spend it on something else. And so fuel, the highway or transportation is funded by the sales tax on motor vehicles, the fuel taxes on diesel, propane, alcohol, everything, and on the license fees. And that all goes directly to roads, with the small exception of an amount that the DNR takes because people are also buying fuel for their ATVs and boats. But all of it goes to transportation, and transportation is viewed as roads. And so that is, again, the purest form of funding roads. We're also looking at a sales tax, too. Some counties today already have a sales tax that we imposed on them in 2008. Other counties have been offered that chance to go up to a half-cent sales tax. And from what I understand, it's 11 counties now that have passed that sales tax of 1%. So they are now taxing for their road and transit needs. And to the caller's question, is it going to go to rural Minnesota? And the answer is yes. There's going to be a 50-50 split of the leased motor vehicle sales tax that's going to go to Greater Minnesota. And also and I don't know the exact splits of the numbers of the some of the other funds, but there's much more that's going to go to rural Minnesota, plus what we call the collar counties, that the collar counties have both, they might eventually have some rail transit. They already have a lot of bus transportation. Some of them have the bus rapid transit that still operates on roads. Like Dakota County, we have a very high development in the areas of West St. Paul, and then a very low development in the areas where David wants to put in the Dan Patch line. And so we have quite a diversity in our county, and the county board wants to be able to allot that to address those different needs in the different parts of the county, and we're going to allow them to do that.
Transportation, Senator Fischbach.
And I have a couple of statistics, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we currently, between state and federal taxes on gas tax, we pay 42 cents a gallon, maybe 42.5, it could be, 42.5. And under the proposal that is on the table right now, it would add about 14 cents state per gallon. So 56 cents a gallon would be under this proposal. Okay, I remember that statistic because I don't think that we really should be raising the gas tax right now. People are seeing some relief. You know, Representative Bly mentions that people are seeing some relief. They're seeing a little bit more in their family budget because gas was sucking so much money out of their family budgets for a while there. I think they're seeing a little bit of relief. I don't think it affords us the opportunity to raise the gas tax at this point. Yes, there's need. And I think that the priority of the rapid transit, the green line, those kinds of things, that we should relook at that kind of thing. If roads and bridges are our real concern, then that's where our money should be going. And that hasn't been in the past few years what we've been doing. So yes, we need roads and bridges, not the other things. The other thing is I think the caller asked about money going to rural Minnesota, and you did mention that there was some the leased vehicle tax, that part of it would be going. I think think the caller probably, because that he asked, or he or she asked the question, really is looking at a little more than that. I think that when they're looking, half of that gas tax, if you're going to increase the gas tax, half of that coming up, because, there's a lot of need in rural Minnesota, and there is no, green line that takes people from Painesville to St. Cloud to work. So that's not what they're looking at. They don't have those kinds of things that are going on out there. So they have to be on the roads, and that's what needs to be done out there. So I think not just a little bit of money going to rural Minnesota, but I think they're talking about a more substantial amount of money going to rural Minnesota if you're going to be looking at transportation. And I only look at you because I know you're on that.
Yep.
Are you vice chair of transportation?
No.
Or you were at one point, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. And so that's why I kind
4 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've been there a long time, so it all smears together.
Representative Schumacher?
Well, I don't have the fortunate ability to be on one of the transportation committees, so I don't have a lot when it comes to the background and some of the statistics and where things have been and kind of where things are going. But if the question is there going to be a gas tax increase? I don't know if anyone can really answer that. I do think that
Todd County wants to know that too, by the way. Will there be a gas tax increase? So I'm not sure if we could wager
Stay
on
tuned.
that. Stay tuned.
I think we're done May 18th is the last day of consultation.
with us.
We have to
Check in with
adjourn, check in on the 19th, because we won't know for sure till then.
Yeah.
and that's really going to be, this is the issue that's going to dominate the session, and where things end up will all depend on what happens with transportation. I don't think there are going to be the votes for a gas tax increase in the House as of right now. I think there is some interest in looking at some of the other possibilities that are out there to improve the efficiencies and maybe take away some of the regulation there. Is that going to be enough? Some argue yes, some argue no. I think that when we look around the state, my district's about 2,500 miles in square miles, and that's a lot of roads I spend a lot of time on, and the time to go from Laverne to the cities is quite a long drive too, so I'm spending a lot of time on these roads. My home county actually, for the first time in its history, bonded for roads this year just to do the general maintenance, and so they found a way. They weren't happy about it, but just to do the general maintenance, and they told me they haven't done a blacktop. They haven't created a dirt road to a blacktop in over 30 years, and so it's not like they're expanding their infrastructure that way, but just keeping up with general demands is taking quite a bit because they don't have the ability to do more. And so this is an issue that's going to be taken on quite a bit. I think we shouldn't just close our ideas to a gas tax or no gas tax. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. I've heard ideas of taking some of the surplus dollars and buying down some of the debt that we have on the road and bridge bonds so that we're able to bond for more of those as we go through to just get things going, at least at the very start. And I've heard two suggestions that in other states they're looking at working through the constitutional amendment process so that if the people of Minnesota really wanted to raise the gas tax on themselves, that they have the opportunity to vote and do that. And maybe that's what we come down to at the end when both sides are so far apart that we come up with the difference with that.
And if I could just respond to Jim's comment about the Dan Patch line, which is actually not what I'm promoting right now. There's been a lot
Direct
of...
your cards and letters elsewhere, folks. If not promoting a Dan Patch line.
What I am promoting is a passenger rails, intercity regional passenger rail. And I think we have to look to the future because I think we can't just continue to, the wear and tear on our roads and bridges will continue and get worse as our population grows, and our population is growing. So I think we do need to be thinking about not only trains, but transit as well for greater Minnesota as well as the inner city areas. And intercity regional rail, the project I'm talking about now, that and what I'm asking for is really to move it from a Tier 2, which is 30 years down the road, to perhaps a Tier 1 plan, which might be 10 years down the road. And Northfield is in a unique situation where we could go either the old Dan Patch line to get to Minneapolis, or we could go the old Rock Island line into St. Paul. And I think either of those would be fine for Northfield, because with intercity regional rail, you're going to want to get to both Minneapolis and St. Paul with that line, and I think you could do either one. But what I'm asking is that MnDOT do a study to see what's most feasible. There's been tremendous interest from Albert Lee north along the line, with the exception when we get into your county. But I think we have a growingly, as Joe mentioned earlier, the aging of our state. There are going to be more and more people who are not going to want to drive, and yet they will want to get around, whether it's using rail or transit kind of multimodal choices. And we have a growing younger population that is choosing not to buy cars and are looking to us to make some decisions about providing other kinds of transportation for people. So I think to be forward-looking, to be thinking about how we move people and goods around is it's important to think about these other modes of transportation.
I'd like to add one thing that I didn't explain about the gas tax. The proposal that we're bringing forth is to do what they call a sales tax on the wholesale price of gasoline. And what they do is look at how much the wholesale the collections would be on a 6.5% sales tax on wholesale gasoline, and then every August 1st they would. That would be the termination for the year, and on October 1st, they would bump the amount, the equivalent cents per gallon, and that's what you were talking about. And I believe the 14 cents is actually what they're using in the fiscal note in the bill.
Yeah.
So that's where the 14 cents comes from. And what will happen is, because the wholesale price will fluctuate, so will that price on the pump once a year. And we can expect that gasoline will go up, and the intent is to collect more as the costs of road maintenance go up. Road maintenance has just gone out of sight. Bituminous is out of sight. The gravel is going up. All kinds of construction costs. Plus, Minnesota is fortunate and unfortunate that we have a lot of hills, lakes, and rivers. And that makes a lot more bridges, and bridges are very expensive per mile, and much more expensive than some other states. So we have a robust road system here, but it's also very expensive.
I was thinking of, to help get us out of the Depression, at the federal level, we had an infrastructure bank which provided funds based on in a sense, it was a kind of public bank. And I don't know if that's a realistic thing for Minnesota to look at, but it's a different way of funding projects. And essentially, you have the state of Minnesota making those kinds of bonds and loans out of future expectations of money coming in. It might be something to look at as a way of getting beyond this without having to raise taxes.
So on a somewhat different topic, when I was stuck in traffic on 35E and 110, by the way, you lose a lane there, so if you guys want to add a lane somewhere, I'm lobbying for 35E at 110.
How much gas tax you will have to pay on
I want somebody else to pay for it,
Right.
Oh, there you go.
I'm like everybody else, right? But anyway, while I'm stuck in traffic, I'm flipping around the radio dial, and I come across a discussion about the question of when the legislature might go home, what the possibilities are for, we've had some issues with inability to reach an agreement, special sessions, et cetera. But one of the topics that was mentioned was the fact that some states have adopted what they call a lights-on bill or other legislative answers to deal with end-of-session issues that eliminate the sort of the chaos that can be associated with that end-of-session gridlock. Has there been any discussion about any of those kinds of bills, or any possibility on that score?
Well, as the historian, every time that we face a shutdown or looming shutdown, whatever it may be, there's lots of discussion, and there's bills introduced, and there's lots of discussion about lights on. It is easier said than done, right? Because for the same reason that there's a looming shutdown, a lights-on bill doesn't pass. But no, I don't think I've seen anything introduced this year, but in the past there is the discussion, quite a bit of that. And, there's some sense to it, but it also would end that kind of critical mass. You wouldn't have that deadline that people need to hit.
And that's the argument against it, that you do have to get the work done at some point, and the lights-on bill might take the foot off the gas, so to speak.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, but like I said, lots of talk about it when we get close to a shutdown or area to shutdown. So.
Yeah, taking the approach of the way the federal government does it probably isn't the direction that we want to go as a state.
We don't want to emulate the feds, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
All
right, so a viewer wants to know, what are the chances for increased nursing home funding? So let's start.
No, this is our expert
start
here.
With Joe, or Representative
signing
Schumacher?
the bill today.
Okay.
Well, I feel very optimistic that we're at a point where I think the legislature will be granting some raises to that. When Republicans had control 4 years ago, they had a $6 billion deficit to deal with, and there wasn't the appetite to raise taxes, and so the nursing homes didn't see an increase then. When we did raise taxes over the last 2 years and raised about a little over $2 billion in taxes at that time, there was only about an actual 2 or 3% rate increase to nursing homes, with the other 5%, the other 2 or 3% coming from funds that were already going to go to nursing homes. And so we've had this ideal where we just do enough, both sides have just done enough to get through to the next year, and I think there's an appetite now a little bit more to actually try and resolve this issue, at least for the time being, get everyone up to at least the cost of care. That's really the point where we want to be, so that facilities aren't having to deal with having, I think right now they're at about $30 per bed per day underfunded in the Medicaid rates for what it actually costs to pay folks. And when we have increasing insurance costs, increasing property costs, and increasing
everything,
wages, food's more expensive, and the wages, it's hard to compete for jobs that we want to make careers. And so Speaker Dowd has said time and time again, and I believe from what I've heard from last week's episode, Majority Leader Pepin talked about the need for this. I see it from at least the House majority side that it is a real priority. And I was shopping around a bill today to try and raise rates, and it wasn't too hard to reach the limit on that. So. I'm looking forward to it.
I think there's support on our side for that too. So, and I hear from my nursing homes locally that the very thing you were just saying.
I've heard from yours too.
I tell them now to call you, Joe.
Okay, yeah, everybody call Joe.
Yeah. Senator Carlson, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's been a bipartisan recognition that we need to do something, and and on the healthcare workers themselves, there's a lot of pressure on the employers to keep people employed, because you open up a Menards and you lose half of your staff.
Yeah.
That's a problem, and so what they need to do is have some competitive wages, and in some of the areas in Greater Minnesota, they just have a devil of a time trying to keep staffed up.
Yeah.
So that's that's a reality that we have to help with.
Yeah, and so I'm optimistic this year, because of the divided government that we have, that everyone can take enough credit so that we can actually get it done.
And I was just going to add, you mentioned earlier about the expansion of the reimbursement program, the loan forgiveness program. I guess actually the state's just reimbursing, but folks who would, LPNs, RNs, nurse, dentists, I think it expands it to dental assistants, but who practice in rural Minnesota, who for a certain amount of years will have some of that loan forgiveness or paid back. But that helps with some of that. But I think that more importantly, the higher wages will help, that would come under increased nursing home costs. And I will just say I'm really so proud of the House Republicans for coming up with the Aging Committee. And I'm a little surprised that we hadn't formed one before, because we really do need to focus on that. And I think that this isn't just a Republican issue. I think that everybody recognizes it, and particularly folks in rural Minnesota, where a lot of the big employers are the nursing home in town. And so, but I'm very happy, because I do think it brings a lot of focus to that issue that needs to be, that I think we've all had in the past, but now are really paying attention to, too.
Yeah.
Viewer from Laverne wants to know whether or not lawmakers would support an exemption on car license taxes for 100% disabled veterans. We've had requests in the past for interest on the part of particular tax exemptions for veterans. Is this an issue that there's been any discussion about? Anybody know anything about that?
I have not heard about it.
Not heard that. Not heard
Since
that
it's my
request.
constituent, I'll bring it to our Veterans Committee on Monday.
There you go.
Viewer from Spicer wants to know, how about taxing oil moving through the state on pipelines to be used to help pay for road construction?
It's an interesting idea. I don't know. I haven't anybody.
I have heard that.
I haven't.
It's been
Okay.
suggested sometimes, and evidently now if it's going out of state, there's a commerce issue with it. And
Okay.
so, yeah, you can't just have a meter in the state. And
There's a federal supremacy question. It's those darn lawyers and the Constitution, and
Yeah,
it's
there
all
you
very
go.
complicated.
And-
It's like our wolf problem. Take it up with the federal courts, I guess. All right. Viewer from Lake Olson says, what about electric car users? Do they pay any taxes to contribute directly to road improvements? Which is an interesting question
Yeah, it
and
is.
has
Yeah, but-
become more of an issue. We've only got about 30 seconds.
Okay.
You can-
Transportation
I
guy,
can
you
answer
take that.
Electric cars are all more expensive these days than an equivalent car of equivalent model with gasoline. And so that means that they pay more sales tax. That means that their license fees start out at a higher rate, and they come down the same 10% per year. But the study has shown that they actually pay equal tax to a gasoline car. That's
Even though they don't pay the fuel tax.
They don't pay the fuel.
All right, that's the last word on that. I want to thank our panel. I want to thank you, the viewers, for joining us. We invite you to be with us next week and all the weeks that follow for your legislators. Thank you and good night.
There's much more about Your Legislators online at pioneer.org/yourlegislators. Find out more about the history of the program, who's been a guest, and watch all of our past episodes. There's also a photo gallery, informative links, and much more. You can also get involved and stay in touch by following us on Twitter and join us in the discussion on our Facebook page. Thank you for watching Your Legislators. Major funding for Your Legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a diverse coalition dedicated to erasing Minnesota's transportation deficit and creating new funding that will enable the state to properly maintain and improve transportation assets and expand access opportunity for all. More information on the web at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota clean waters safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans.